Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to the Cool Sports Network and the Chase's Sports News YouTube channel. I'm your host, Chase Coburn, here for the May 21st, 2025 edition of Wednesday Windup, Summer Baseball, and more. Except today, the irony of that slogan is we're not talking about baseball today because when you have the things that are going on currently in the National Football League and the discussions that are to be discussed in the NFL, coupled with an incredible NBA postseason, there are other things we got to break down, except the 50 games in we are into the MLB season. So, of course, we'll start off with kind of talking about our NBA conference finals. Game one in both series, by the time you're seeing this video, probably done. I'm going to give you guys my conference finals preview, what I think needs to happen for all teams to win, and the teams I do think will meet up in the NBA finals. And then, of course, we got to talk about the Brock Purdy contract extension, 5 years, $265 million, making him one of the highest paid players of all time. Was it worth it for San Francisco? What value will they get in return for that contract? And then, of course, the long-awaited result today. We found out the Tush Push will not be banned, and my thoughts on whether it should have been banned or not, and if I do like the decision that the NFL teams and organizations did make with the rule. We are here on Wednesday Windup, Summer Baseball, and more. Before we get into the juicy part of this episode, I would like to kind of advertise some of my other content. First of all, huge website launch coming soon, chasesportsnews.com. Currently, there's going to be nothing on the page. However, really soon is going to be our official website launch. We're really excited for that. And a new logo to come on the Wiz Talk with Chase. It's just a lot of new things, a lot of kind of things I've been working on for a while that are coming here to the channel. Some really exciting things and some really exciting guests as well. But I'll leave that to be determined until those guests do come on. But if it doesn't say it already, please hit the subscribe button because we have a lot more coverage to break down. Links below to my work, kind of on my newsletter and the league winners as well, doing some great content for sports writing, particularly in the National Football League and college football on both of those sites as well. Let's jump into this. For now, we're going to stay clear of football. We're going to talk about basketball. 4 teams left. OKC, Minnesota, New York, Pacers, 1-6, 3-4. Still a lot of great basketball in store, but I don't think I was the only one who I want to say was underwhelmed by the results that are now setting up these conference finals matchups. I think a lot of fans really wanted to see, 3-time MVP Nikola Jokic, former finals MVP, or LeBron and Luka at this point, or Steph Curry at this point, or Kawhi and Harden for the Western Conference maybe at this point, or maybe you want to see Jason Tatum and the champs play the dominant Cleveland team that felt like the predestined by the universe Eastern Conference final that we've been waiting for all year. And instead, we didn't get that. And we didn't get any of those star players in there. Now, some of that was because of injuries. Some of that was just because of underperforming in the postseason. But I think it's safe to say that a lot of fans, including myself as an analyst and as a reporter, are kind of underwhelmed by what we see in this conference final. And I think there would be some more ideal matchups that we could set up if this game were scripted and we were able to kind of write a script for the NBA postseason, if you will. However, I don't think that means we don't have some great conference finals in store between Oklahoma and Minnesota on the West and New York and Indiana on the East. So today I'm going to give you kind of my thoughts on both of those series and what I think is going to happen. I want to talk about OKC first as we kind of talk about the Western Conference final. I believe they've become boring. And maybe it's because they're good. I've criticized so many people on this podcast for disliking the Kansas City Chiefs just for the sole purpose of that they're great. And when we talk about the Tush Push later, I hate when people criticize and are bashing a team because of how great they are and how dominant they are. To me, I hate to do that. I never do it in sports, except for now with Oklahoma City. Because I don't know what it is, but I watch this team. They're a young team. They have great talent. They're the future of the league. They officially have the game's MVP, which I don't agree with, but you just have to accept and move on with your life with. 33 points per game. It's still an incredible player, whether you think he's the MVP or not. And number one is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They're well coached. They're a team that, when they've been great in Oklahoma City, I think they've been a pretty successful franchise since they moved in 2008. 3 MVPs in this kind of less than 20-year time span. They're a great franchise. But I just think there's something about them that when you're a young team, when you're flashy, when you win 68 games and you have the league MVP, you're supposed to be having this gravitational pull to the rest of the NBA fan base. As a Washington Wizards fan, they should be the team I'm cheering for here as we're in the Final Four. They haven't won in Oklahoma City. They have the star power. They're a young team. They're great defensively, but can outscore you on any given night. But I just don't. And Andrew Fedishow brought this up on his channel as well. There's something about them that does not make them an enjoyable team to watch on a night-to-night basis. But they are a superior opponent to any team they play, and they are dominant. And I think that you just at least have to acknowledge that. I mean, you look at the first round series, it was a joke. Memphis didn't even look like they were in the same caliber, the same echelon as Oklahoma City. It looked like it was men versus boys. It was pathetic to watch. If you were someone who was at least vouching for the Memphis Grizzlies, I was hoping the Grizzlies would make it a series. We could see what Ja Morant was made of in some clutch time situations, but Oklahoma City was far too good to have that series go more than 4 games. And then you play Denver, and you kind of saw some of their vulnerabilities, and you saw kind of Jalen Williams struggle a little bit more than we expected, and you saw Shai Gilgeous-Alexander not be maintained, but let's just say not play to the MVP caliber and the MVP standard we've now set on him now that he has captured that award, and at the time of the series, we knew he was going to capture that award. I think that the fact that they were able to move on was great. We did see their vulnerabilities there, but overall, this team is dominant. And even with the lack of experience, they go into that game 7, and they harnessed that opportunity. They took advantage of that opportunity. And they beat a Denver team that knows how to win in the playoffs, has a great clutch scorer down the stretch, has the best player in the world at the current moment. And all of a sudden, you're in the conference finals. And I think it's great that they are here. I'm not trying to acknowledge that they are not dominant, and I'm going to get into that in just a minute. I mean, this is a team that can beat you from so many different areas. They can outscore you on any given night. They can win a game where both teams score less than 100 points. They're very versatile defensively. They have great perimeter defenders, but can also switch those perimeter defenders inside the paint. We saw that with Alex Caruso's stout defensive play against Nikola Jokic in the paint in that game 7, but they also do a good job at limiting opponents from getting to the paint as well. And I mean, in game 1, Oklahoma City really took care of business against Minnesota. It was a really, really boring game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. And one of the things I noticed is Anthony Edwards just had one dunk or layup attempt the entire game. His average kind of distance of each shot attempt that he had was 25.8 feet. I mean, we're talking 3-point range here, and that's why 61% of Minnesota's shots in game 1 came from beyond the arc. And we're just going to get into those stats from ESPN and NBA.com. And as we kind of get into the T-Wolves here, they are a really, really, the Thunder are a nightmarish matchup for Minnesota. Because what Minnesota likes to do is they like to beat you on the perimeter, and they like to not have to depend on its 3-point ball. However, from the defensive effort that we saw from Oklahoma City, it looks like they are going to have to depend on that 3-point ball. 61% of their shots, 51 of their 83 in game 1 came from 3-point range. They made 29% of those looks. And if a lack of efficiency continues from 3-point range, a loss will occur. And now that you're already in an 0-1 hole, obviously the series is far from over when you look at a team led by Anthony Edwards, a team that has postseason experience, a team that has gotten here for a reason. You have to think that you can trust them to come back in the series. However, if the shot's not falling, it's just not going to work. This team doesn't have many different ways to beat you. And the shot wasn't amazing against Los Angeles, and 3-point shooting wasn't amazing against Golden State, but that's because they could do one thing, Minnesota, in those 2 series. They could attack the rim. They could penetrate to the paint and dominate in the cylinder. Whether that was Rudy Gobert, whether that was Naz Reid, whether that was Anthony Edwards, not only did they get to the paint, but they dominated in those areas so greatly that it was insufferable for their opponent. For Golden State, kind of an asterisk on that with no Steph Curry, but defensively, he wouldn't have really changed that. And so you have to look at the series and you have to ask yourself, can that translate? I don't believe so. And I think that's what game 1 taught us, because with Los Angeles, they don't have elite center play after giving up Anthony Davis. They do that trade 11 out of 10 times, trading Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic. But when the Mark Williams trade was vetoed due to a physical, they lost the potential there at center. Steph Curry has come out, so the Warriors have to improve at center this year. They didn't have that dominant big man, and there's only so much Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler could do to keep up with Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid in the paint. I look back at that game 5 where Minnesota eliminated Los Angeles, and overall in that entire series, and I say that's the way Minnesota's got to play if they want to win. They got to get to the paint. They got to get rebounds. In that game 5, Gobert had 9 offensive rebounds, 24 rebounds as a whole, and 27 points to go along with it to eliminate Los Angeles on the road. You have to find that success in the paint. And if you can, you take Caruso off Edwards. You make Alex Caruso play in the interior. And on the perimeter, you allow Anthony Edwards to do his thing. And even if that's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is a great perimeter defender, you don't want Alex Caruso and Anthony Edwards. You have to give Edwards the opportunity to shine and play his game. And oftentimes, that will come from looks down low. So Minnesota's either got to shoot really efficiently for the next 6 games, which I don't think they could. I don't think they can, because they've had games where they can be very efficient from 3, like in Game 1 against Los Angeles to open the postseason. But this is not a team that is efficient from 3-point range consistently. This is a team that likes to muster wins in a different way. And it's going to be very tough to get to the paint. It's easier said than done when you're going against Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein down there. That is a tough task. You add in guys like Lou Dort, Alex Caruso. These are good defenders who can move to the interior when needed. So that's going to have to be Minnesota's angle, is can you get to the paint and can you allow Minnesota to play freely? Because can you allow Edwards to play freely? Because if you can't, this is going to be OKC. I think Edwards and Minnesota, I think they have a few games where they shoot really well, and I think they have a few games where they can exploit some of the vulnerabilities on this Oklahoma City roster offensively. I see them winning a few lower scoring games. I have this series going to 7 games, but I do think it's OKC to go back to the finals for the first time since 2012 with that big 3 of KD, Russ, Harden, because I think eventually this team has too much talent and has been too consistent all year for me to bet against them in this type of scenario. Moving over to the Eastern Conference, I look at predictions, and honestly, it's Knicks. Like, people are acting like New York is a shoo-in in this series. But I wouldn't doubt Indiana. The Pacers have given, over the past 2 seasons, no reason to be doubted. They're clutch, and I'm going to get into that in just a minute. They're great from 3. They're meticulous defensively, and they take away secondary options. I'm not going to sit here and act like Giannis Antetokounmpo and Donovan Mitchell didn't have great series against Indiana. They did. But both of those teams lost that series without making it pretty close because the secondary options were limited. With Cleveland, Darius Garland didn't play much. You can't obviously look at that matchup. You look at Evan Mobley, the defensive player of the year, who's really progressed offensively this year. He was held in check. Jarrett Allen held in check. A lot of the secondary options on that Cleveland team held in check, where it got to the point where Mitchell was dropping 40-plus points on a consistent basis, and Cleveland still wasn't winning. They still weren't getting wins. And that came as a shock. And if you would have told me that before the postseason, I wouldn't have believed you. But Indiana has now shown us, as a well-coached team led by Rick Carlisle, that they could take away those secondary options and that they could be the more consistent team and that they could win. Meanwhile, you look at the second round with New York, and they were the other team to pull off the big upset. No one had the Knicks beating the Boston Celtics, including myself. I had the Celtics winning the championship. It felt too easy, and as my good friend Andrew Frenichel explained it on YouTube, it's almost as if the Celtics were like the hot girlfriend, but you didn't notice their red flags until you broke up. And I'm giving him full credit for that analogy, and he's right, because this is a team where it felt like they had very little weaknesses, but those weaknesses, when they were exploited, were so obvious and so horrific. And it felt like you had times throughout the year where, when they're making all these threes and they're barely winning, people, including myself, should have thought, what if they don't make those threes? And that was kind of the story. But I think the key question you have to take out of that series between New York and Boston, through the injuries and through all the chaos, what a series that was did the Knicks win that series because of Boston's faults or because of their own resiliency and their own ability to take over a game? Because New York trailed by 14 or more points in 5 of the 6 games. They also shot really poorly in games 1 and 2, though won both on the road. And again, a lot of people give them credit for being able to come back, and I give them credit for that. Their offense was spectacular down the stretch, and their defense was great on Tatum down the stretch. But I think a lot of that has to do with just Boston as a team. I don't think they're a great clutch team. They don't know how to close out games, and because they've been so dominant for so long, they haven't had to be in situations to close out games. And once New York kind of gave them a little bit of a scare, they didn't know how to respond to that. And so I've been trying to wrap my head around the fact of, did that series go the way it did because of New York or because of Boston? And I think it was because of Boston. But the thing that could bring New York back in this series is clutch play. And I think that's going to be the story in this series. Tyrese Halliburton and Jalen Brunson are two of the game's clutchest. Brunson literally got the title. He won the clutch player of the year this year, and for good reason. He hit that double bang shot against Detroit. He's had games where he put up 50 points. And though a lot of people criticize the signing, including myself when it did happen, Jalen Brunson knows how to take over a game. He knows how to hit the big shots when it matters most. He is Mr. Big Time in New York. He can play that style that is so tough to play against down the stretch. He knows how to take the game into his own hands, and he knows how to win. He's been a winner his entire basketball career. And that's been evident this year. But Tyrese Halliburton is 10 of 11 on game-tying or game-winning shot attempts in 2024-25. And I think what has, I guess, upset me the most about the NBA fan base going into this postseason was the fact that he was called the most overrated player in the entire league. And I get that was from the players, but that is translated over to the fans. And I guess my question to you, to those who do think that, is why? Why is he the most overrated player in the league? Because I'd argue the Pacers are the most underrated, kind of under-the-radar contender throughout the entire year. He's a huge part of that. He's an incredible facilitator, and he gets paid as the leader. And I think a lot of people now, if you're not the scorer, a lot of people can't translate not scoring and leadership in the same one. It's like hard for them to like comprehend and like wrap around in their brain. But Tyrese Halliburton's a leader, and he knows how to hit the big shots when it matters most. And he's now made back-to-back conference finals. So I don't know what's overrated about him. The guy is clutch. The guy is a winner. The guy knows how to play in big-time situations. He knows how to hit the big-time shots. And we're going to see that in this series. And I'm so excited to see down the stretch who's going to come up, Halliburton or Brunson. And that may be the separator in this series. Two well-coached teams. Two teams who are well prepared for this series. They're going to know how to play defensively. I think both teams can have the three-point shot going if they need to. I like both teams' depth, though I think New York has an advantage there. Overall, the series is going to come down to who can close out games and who can find that extra separator against their opponent. And I think that's Indiana. And I think a lot of people have taken away the New York fraudulent kind of claim after they beat Boston. I just think Boston was fraudulent. We didn't know it. I don't think this New York team is that great, to be brutally honest with you. And I think Indiana's going to exploit that. And when I say that, not that great, not as great as they're being advertised right now going into this. People are penciling them into the NBA Finals, and I don't like it. I got Indiana in 6. I got the Pacers knocking out the Knicks in the conference finals, setting up an NBA Finals matchup between Indiana and Oklahoma City. That's what I'm thinking about the conference finals right now. The NBA playoffs have been fantastic, and I'm excited to see how these two series do play out. Now, though, you can see the text below me. I want to talk about this Brock Purdy extension. 5 years, $265 million going to Brock Purdy. A decent amount of that guaranteed, which will start after the end of this season, after the termination of his rookie deal. That's $53 million annually. It's the sixth highest amount in the National Football League. And you know, when I had Adam Schefter on the podcast last year, it had to be an obvious question when you were looking at the Dak Prescott contract situation, and you had seen Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, then followed by Tua and Jared Goff, and followed by Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, and all these others. And I don't want to count anyone out of that list. There's so many, great quarterbacks who have been getting paid. But I kind of asked him, are they getting overpaid? Like, how's this going to end? And he said they're pretty much going to keep resetting the market. But I'm glad that Purdy did reset the market. And it's still a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. The difference once you get to that point between $53 million and $60 million, like, yes, it is a difference. But once you get to that high amount, that's an inconsequential difference at that point. It's just the title of who could be the highest paid. And right now, that's Dak Prescott at $60 million a year in Dallas. But when you look at Brock Purdy, that's still a lot of money. I'm glad he didn't reset the market just for the sake of NFL quarterback pay in general. But I think San Francisco is now in a very tricky position because I understand the point of not letting go Purdy. The grass is not always greener on the other side. And I think while San Francisco has done a great job at working with quarterbacks who are not as great as Purdy, they've had success with Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance was in. They were not a terrible football team. They have shown over the years that they know how to win with really anyone under center. And that's because they're well coached, they were great defensively, and they had the weaponry around that quarterback and the pieces at his disposal to allow him to succeed and to get the best out of that performer. I mean, there was a time when Jimmy Garoppolo was considered a top 10 signal caller in the league. And on any other roster, that probably wouldn't have been the case. But San Francisco made the best of his value, and they're doing the same here with Brock Purdy. However, they've lost a lot of pieces this offseason. You're talking Deebo Samuel, Greenlaw and Hufanga defensively, and because of salaries, they're now more expensive. You can't keep everyone. You have to trade these guys, and it's been harder to rebuild this roster. While Brock Purdy is probably a more talented quarterback than the others they've worked with and found success with, Brock Purdy, I would argue a huge part of his success has come from the weapons around him. Because last season, when he did not have the weaponry around him because Christian McCaffrey was hurt, because Brandon Ayuk was hurt, because Deebo Samuel regressed, he did not have the same talent around him he had the previous years. The defense wasn't as stable, whether due to injury or just whether due to inconsistency. And he struggled because of it. And the team struggled because of it too. It was a bad season from San Francisco last year. A top 10 pick of the NFL draft for a team that made the Super Bowl the year before. Truly a disappointment. And so now you're in a situation where you're paying your quarterback $53 million a year. And the question has become, can you trust him in big situations? Because if you can't, you kind of don't have a choice at this point. San Francisco now has one of the top 7 highest paid salaries at each position in quarterback, running back, wide receiver, fullback, tight end, left tackle, linebacker, and edge rusher. Those being Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, Trent Williams, Fred Warner, and Nick Bosa. All of those guys are amongst the top 7 highest paid salaries in their respective position. So you really don't have any margin for error now. And a few of those guys, you got Brandon Ayuk who's hurt, George Kittle who's still in a lot of money and is getting older. Brock Purdy's not going to have the same talent around him that he has had. And I don't think he can be relied on. The next question is going to become if San Francisco can somehow rebuild that talent, which I can trust that they can. I love their head coaching. I think their front office has done a great job. And if the team that currently is around Purdy stays healthy, it could be good enough to find success. Can he win a Super Bowl is the next question. And there are many people who are like, of course not. It's Brock Purdy. There are other people who say, he made it to overtime in the Super Bowl and ran into a monster in Patrick Mahomes. And you could say that's anyone. Anyone ran into the monster of Patrick Mahomes. And the question has now become, can anyone from the AFC defeat that monster of Patrick Mahomes? The question was the NFL until the Eagles did it. But with San Francisco, they came close. Brock Purdy could have a ring on his finger if McLeod didn't fumble that football on the punt return, which then gave the Chiefs control of the game. I'm still convinced that if McLeod catches that football, as great as Patrick Mahomes is, the 49ers win that football game. So I think the 49ers are overvaluing what Brock Purdy could do. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. But if they did not pay Brock Purdy this value, what would be the highest another team would pay? Because the teams with the best systems are the teams with the best quarterbacks. There are very little teams in the National. I could see Minnesota maybe trying to take a swing on him if he reached the free agency market. If this whole J.J. McCarthy experiment didn't work out, because they know how to get the best out of a mediocre quarterback, in my opinion, like we saw with Sam Darnold. But outside of that, like the best systems are with the best quarterbacks. I think they had more leverage here than they used, and they overvalued what Brock Purdy could do. Like, yes, he is the only quarterback from the 2022 draft class to play with one team. But I just think a lot of his success has had to do with his teammates. And if the teammates is no longer there, the 49ers are now entering tax hell for the next 5 years once that contract kicks in. And can they adjust and can they find other ways to succeed now with the contract on the books? That's going to be the question. That's going to be the question that is going to have to be answered. And I think that the 49ers, their fan base, and Brock Purdy are going to find a lot of trouble figuring out ways to be a contender now that he is making $53 million a year starting next season. But folks, today officially was the NFL Tush Push ban. Yes, folks, the NFL Tush Push is not banned. It's been it has been the most controversial topic in sports media for the past week once we found out that the rulings were going to happen, once we found out that the official drawings were coming today. The NFL needed 24 teams, 75% of the league, to call for the ban to actually ban the play. 22 teams said they would ban it, coming just 2 teams short of that total. The teams that didn't, the 10 teams who did not think the Tush Push ban was reasonable. To no surprise, Philadelphia, the team who invented it, has mastered the play. Baltimore, Cleveland, Detroit, Jacksonville, Miami, New England, New Orleans, the New York Jets, and Tennessee. Those were the teams who did not want to ban it. The 22 teams who did, I'm not going to list them all off, but the teams were very vocal about it. Buffalo's been vocal about it, which is kind of shocking since Josh Allen is actually just below Jalen Hurts in 1-yard touchdowns, and they've actually used the tush push to their advantage. So I'm kind of confused where their philosophy was. Kind of ironic there. But Green Bay's been very vocal about it. Atlanta's been very vocal about it, and the Rams have been vocal about it. And the concerns have been different across the board, but what the teams didn't like is a few things. And again, I say concerns in quotes. They said injuries could be caused with all of those players kind of clumped up in the middle. But I would argue there's no stats to prove that. And while that just seems like, oh yeah, injuries, they're all touching each other. Like, you have to have some statistical fact of that, or at least show some film that can lead to that. Because injuries are actually less likely, we've seen, when the tush push is used. And I think that a lot of people are saying, of course injuries are going to continue to be caused when you're pushing another player forcibly into another player. They're going to cause injuries. Guys, this isn't ballet. You're playing the game of football. Like, you're playing American football. You are playing the game where the entire objective of the defensive player is to destroy, humiliate the offensive player, to tackle them, to force a fumble, to get them hurt, not intentionally getting them hurt, but you want to hit them so hard that they don't get up for a few seconds. That's the goal of a defensive player. The greatest defensive players of all time play with that mentality, and the best teams in the NFL play with that mentality. I hate that if this rule were banned, it would be a symbol that the NFL was soft and that the NFL could not accept the reality of their game. Because if you are telling me that you are afraid because, an injury, you get a little boo-boo on your ankle, give me a break. You're in the National Football League. And let's be honest, that wasn't the case. You cannot reasonably tell me that was your explanation for trying to ban this tush push. The Rams said it's ruining the integrity of the game, which I honestly think is not a great case, but the best case someone could have made. Because when you look at a team like the Los Angeles Rams, who are thinking this, their whole point is that the play is not representing the game of football. It's more of just this, like, cheat code kind of play, kind of your easy way out to get a first down. And that there should be more of there should be, you should have to think more complex to try to get that extra yard. You should have to think differently. Because teams will find loopholes to this. They'll find other ways to do it. And they're going to ban that play too. To me, if the NFL banned this play, I would have seriously lost my mind. Because why would you ban a play because the team has mastered it? It would literally be like banning, and I'm going to give Benchwarmer Brand a lot of credit for kind of giving these kinds of thoughts in my brain, a great YouTuber on social media. But it would be like banning Lamar Jackson scrambles, or Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelce postseason pass connections, or like Justin Jefferson on one-on-one balls. Like, this makes no sense. Like, let's be honest with ourselves for a second. This has nothing to do with injuries. This has nothing to do with the integrity of the game. Philadelphia just won a Super Bowl, and the people don't like it. And the people don't like that they use this play, that they perfected the art of gaining yardage on the goal line. And they don't like that they were able to use that they were able to use it to their advantage, that they were able to use it to help them win a Super Bowl. They just don't like that. I mean, Jalen Hurts has 33 1-yard quarterback rushing touchdowns over the past few seasons. The next best is Josh Allen with 14. It's a wide gap. No team has mastered the skill better than Philadelphia. And it's almost a guaranteed first down every single time. Because they should be punished for that. As the examples I put up earlier, if you're going to play this manly game, this tough, grinded out game, to take the easy way out and try to ban a play because the team's good at it, teams just have to adjust. To me, it would ruin the integrity of the game to ban it. Because it would show that these teams aren't able to make those adjustments. They're not able to tweak their game plan. And it would kind of ruin the purpose of unique craftiness offensively. And I hate in the NBA where it's more prominent and it's more easy to quote-unquote cheat in the NBA when you look at the zero step and ways to draw contact, and the whole foul merchant thing's been a big topic as of late. But I always hated when the NBA would ban these rules. if you're able to at least bend the rule book a little bit, which Philadelphia isn't here, but if you're able to bend the rule book in the sport a little bit, use it to your advantage. If you're not causing injuries and you're succeeding at it, force the other teams to adjust. To me, Philly has been masterful with the tush push. It made them win a Super Bowl. And I'm glad it wasn't bad. And I'm glad it can't be bad. Because, hey, NFL, you want to stop it? Don't ban it. Just stop it. Adjust to it. That's what you got to do. Hey, NFL, don't ban it. Stop it. Beat it. Adjust to it. Make tweaks into your game plan. This is ridiculous. And I cannot believe that it came this close. I can't believe this game that I watch and that I cover consistently on a day-to-day basis had the thought of this. I kind of feel betrayed as an NFL fan. I know it's crazy. But, like, I'm absolutely not a fan of this at all, without question. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous we had to have this conversation. And I'm really glad that the tush push could stay. Because, look, I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan. If I got to go against the Philadelphia Eagles, that stinks. There's really no stopping it. But you know what? Figure out your own play. Figure out your own way to win football games. And don't try to stop another team's way of doing so. Folks, the tush push is not banned. And it is definitely for the better. Hope you guys did enjoy this edition of Wednesday Windup. Please subscribe, follow, share, and view. We're going to have more content coming soon here on the Chase Sports' YouTube channel, the Cool Sports Network. You are not going to want to miss it. So we're going to sign off from here. I'm your host, Chase Coburn, saying so long. Stay tuned for some great content across all of my social media platforms. Links to all of my work is in the description, and we'll see you next time right here from Wednesday Windup. Take care.